Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation, along with.
CJ Lou from the Fire It Up with CJ show.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
If you've ever struggled to shift, then do we have the Surfing Great Change show for you? Today, we'll talk about creative angst, surfing great change, and how to step forward even when there's an Everest looming straight ahead.
Wow.
That plus we'll talk about spiritual milestones, Mumbai madness, 10M days, TV miracles, warriors with swords, books falling out of the sky, Teslas and volts, books, and more books, an overabundance of stuff, running off the rails, diets gone mad, shopping challenges, and what in the world yellow wheels and tandems have to do with anything. So welcome,
Wow.
CJ. Are you ready to
I
shine?
am ready to shine. Woo! Okay, you've been busy, 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 busy. It's been 2 weeks, right, since we've talked.
I have no idea. This time period has been a blur.
You have had an overabundance of stuff. What is that? Does that relate to all the long list of things on here, or what
I
does
know
it
that
relate to?
is Jessica came back from the storage unit
Oh,
from
right.
turned into Super Pookie. The day after she arrived, everything arrived on a truck. I don't know if we had discussed that or not. And we had to get that truck emptied. And a lot of the contents of the truck are in the studio, in the kitchen, in the living room.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how much is in the bedroom, thankfully, but it is a truly an overabundance. And um, with our lives, with everybody who's listening to this show as well, there's, I don't want to say there's a limit of time, but there are choices you get to make with your time. And so it is a very gradual, I'd even like to say, stop everything, let's take care of this. But that still wouldn't take care of it. There is only a chip away. Chip a little bit here, chip a little bit here, and more there. Try not to go mad in the process.
Yeah. Well, how many boxes? Just give us a frame because it's your life in California or your life in Hawaii. It's like several different decades of your life in the storage unit, right?
So the big things that I have to go through and sort is actually cool stuff. Lots of sporting goods, which will make it to donation or make it to the local sports retailer. Got to get through all of this electronic stuff that I get to go through. Those are the biggest things that are surrounding me, and really sports gear from my past life. Then we do have lots of gallery photos from another past life of mine. We get to that are actually made it still in frames. We get to figure out where to put those. When I describe it, it doesn't sound like much, but when you are going at what appears to be full capacity, then you can look at one box
Tip you over
day
the edge. I
after
totally
day.
get it.
And going, that box is empty. Were we going to put something in it? Were we going to recycle it? Bandwidth.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going. So you have a Steve Jobs who wore the same clothes every single day of his life because there's only so much ability, so much bandwidth we have. I guess that's a limiting belief to make decisions in a day. And when my bandwidth is, what am I going to discuss with CJ? What's the script going to look like? What am I going to do on this coaching session coming up? Then there may not be, or what do I do? We're building this beautiful new coaching page on our website for make it easier for people. There's the resources are not necessarily there to take care of the stuff, even though the stuff also draws down your resources.
Great.
And I used to be the guy who would do a Herculean effort and knock something out. But each thing that you have on this list here is some sort of a Herculean project. And you can't. What's the expression go from oh my gosh,
Zero to
Brian
hero.
Brian Tracy. It's something like how to eat a frog, poor frog, or elephant one bite at a time. Must be an elephant over a frog. Uh, you can't Herculean effort. And I'm not eating an elephant, and I'm not eating a frog for that matter.
Yeah, so it's a lot. Well, it kind of when you were talking, it reminded me, we both have this Vivo Fit or whatever, Garmin, whatever it is. And in the display has like a little thing that shows like energy in and energy out. And I'm just thinking about like it basically you're thinking about having I'm not sure how to interpret that, but if I figure like it's plus 80 and minus 80, I'm like, okay, like this is like a good day. You moderated your energy to just the right capacity. And so it's about kind of balancing, doing things that build energy and dispelling that energy and kind of having this kind of recycling kind of scenario happening is the idea, but it's hard. I can't even imagine because unpacking is like thousands of little decisions, right? Like
Bingo.
it's like where does it
Exactly.
go? Does it go to recycling? Do I keep? And if I do keep it, where does it go? Do we have a place for it? Or should I throw it in the garbage? And if I do throw it in the garbage, what are the emotional impacts that I have? And here's the other pile of stuff I don't know what to do with. And this is the fourth pile that tortures you.
So, and I'm having an easier time of saying old life, new life, but some of the sporting good things, like different shoes for the trails, I'm like, well, maybe I'd want to try it. But then it's a used product at sports retailer. Do you really want to do that? Or maybe somebody would benefit from it more, and I don't want to try it, and you want to leave it for them new. Too many
Yeah,
questions.
exactly. I don't
Why was
envy
this
you.
gifted me at this time? It's beautiful. So I'm not
I
on
totally
some
get
level
it.
I am complaining just because I'm drowning in the soup.
Well, I think it's I told you how I had a concussion and it's now 3 weeks into the concussion and I literally can feel the cognitive load now. Before I was just doing it, right? And I
Yeah.
just didn't know that there was a cognitive load that was happening. But now I can actually feel the cognitive load. For example, our refrigerator has decided to go kaput. And it's done this twice, where we came home to a little puddle, like, our
It
refrigerator
pickles.
peed on the floor,
You
defrosted.
never want to see that.
No, you're like, oh no. And then luckily, all the meat and stuff was cold, but some of the stuff we just tossed out. Some of the stuff we were grateful, like, how long has it been in the refrigerator, this thing? And why do we have so many condiments? And then we actually moved all of it. Well, luckily, we have another refrigerator, so we're moving all of it to the other refrigerator. And then we defrosted it, we started up again, and then we're like, oh, good. Okay, it's back up. So then we loaded everything back up.
Yeah.
And then right before I was leaving on vacation, maybe 2 days before I was leaving for my recent retreat in Berkeley, it went kaput again. And then we made the mad rush of moving everything that we had moved in there back into the other refrigerator. Luckily, there wasn't as much because we had this run beforehand. And then recently, it just hasn't started up. I opened the refrigerator door 70 degrees. I'm like, oh, damn. And then I open it up 70 degrees. I'm like, okay. So then I research the refrigerator and consumer reports. And then I'm looking at the sizes and like the types of features. And there's refrigerators that make coffee. There are refrigerators. I mean, it's beyond like the ice, filtered water and ice. There's coffee. There's ones that have cameras. There's just, it's
Are there
like,
any that would make you like lunch?
exactly. It's like, why
Alexa,
just
make me lunch.
like I
I
just
want
want
vegan.
something
I
to keep
want.
myself to be cold like this. And and because I can't take this cognitive load, and I was doing this because there's this urgency since I don't like every time like, oh, I need an egg. Walk across the way, get back, oh, I forgot the what, and walking, and then I was like, oh, I've got to get a refrigerator. And there's a long lead time. By the time you order one, it takes another 2 weeks to get installed and everything. So my husband's at a meditation retreat. I'm like going through consumer reports. I'm going through these websites. And at one point I sent him all the stuff that he needed. And I said, can you please just help me decide? Because, we're both going to be living with this thing for a decade. So
It,
what do you
it
want? Do you want French door or not French door? Do you want up or freezer? I don't care about these things. I would like these features. What ones do you care about? And he's like, well, tell me again, because he's at a meditation retreat. So he's like, no, tell me again the features. I'm like, oh my God, it's all an email. And I reached a point, I'm like, I can't talk about this anymore.
so
I'm like, I
CJ,
love you, goodbye. Phone.
because I usually wear sandals running.
Yeah.
I have no summer socks. This year I am putting on a very thin shoe. I've been really happy in some very minimalist innovates with huge lugs on the bottom because I've been having fun running mountains.
Oh, good.
And it means I have worn out the few pairs of socks that I have. So I'm like, okay, I'll just go on Amazon. Can you see where this is going?
Yes.
and I'll choose some socks.
Oh,
And all of a sudden, it's 10,000 pairs of socks, all, I don't know. I'm getting a little discouraged with your company, meaning up in Seattle, because it's all stuff that wears out in 2 weeks or less. They've all got like
yeah,
these 0-star reviews. We went through the same thing with a swamp cooler for this house because
yeah.
we're in the mountains. There's no AC in it. And all I could find is junk. And eventually I just give up.
You're like crying. I can't find socks.
There's 1,000 choices, and every single one, somebody saying, wore out in 2 weeks, completely fell apart, elastic ripped, wasn't as described. And I'm like, I don't have time for this. Give
Convertible
me the
zip
French
pants.
doors.
That's my
Take
other
care of the
thing.
damn thing.
Well, that plus shopping for all these items and for the Camino, it's like, it's like I want to get convertible because you have like 7 items that you can pack. So you're just trying to find the right item that can like is the jackknife of clothing. It's like it can be a towel or it could be a scarf or it could be a sarong or it could be like the headdress that you wear. It's just like trying to find these items like so I'm kind of getting a kind of cognitive overload. Like when I have to pack, it's just like, oh, I don't even know. I just threw everything in the bag. Nothing matched. I mean, you don't realize how much your brain does during the day until you get a concussion. You're like, packing, I'm having like a breakdown just having to pack. And then the refrigerator, I'm like, oh my God. And then I walk into the refrigerator. I happen to hear this noise. I'm like, it's making ice. And I look over and it's back to normal. I don't know what to think. So I'm like,
Poo, poo.
I'm like, should I trust you? I don't know if I'm going to trust
Well,
you or
we,
not.
we had these problems earlier this year with our fridge, and it
Yeah.
turned out it wasn't the compressor gone bad, it was the board gone bad.
Yes. Yeah. And how
And
much
so
did it
we
cost to
had,
replace the board?
I think it was over 300.
Oh, that's not
So,
much because they said it was like by the time, I talked to, of course, the refrigerator salesman. He's like
yeah,
125 to 250 to visit, then another 125 for the board. So, you're looking at, by the time he had it's like $700, or you can buy a new refrigerator for 1,500. So you have to make this decision carefully. And I'm like, so you had a board and it was only
we had,
325. All right.
yeah. So we got the board replaced, and now it's back humming along. It doesn't make coffee. But the ice maker, which we never used, we use the ice maker now. So that's like
That's
cool.
exciting. Yeah, you're like, I
That's
have
a
ice
step up in the
now.
world for us.
Well, one of them, I'm like, I don't think it has an ice maker. I'm like, whatever, just put it in the trays. And Gideon's like, oh, what? No, no, we need an ice maker. I'm like, we don't need an ice maker. But now that you have it, it is kind of nice.
It
Yeah. Okay.
really
So
is.
you have all these other things: TV
Oh,
miracles, Warriors with Swords. Okay, where to even start? I want to start with the book falling out of the sky.
so books falling out of the sky is so. I'm going to back up. I had a meeting with a medium a week
Hmm.
or two ago, week, 10 days ago. I don't
Hmm.
know. Sat down with her, and it was actually, particularly for my ego, and I'm still processing it, a really uncomfortable experience.
Oh.
She said that I had warriors lined up on one side of me that were very masculine, huge swords, armor on, really pushing their way to the front. And then on the other side, there was more of feminine energy, but it was back a little bit. And the warriors kept pushing and pushing and pushing forward to represent that I'm pushing and striving and trying too hard,
Hmm.
and that I need to back off of the gas. And
Hmm.
that was really hard for me. And I was told if you back off of the gas, you are just slightly out of flow, and all of this flow will take place. And
Hmm.
so I've been working tremendously on surrender since that point, but my ego definitely got ruffled feathers from it because I'm going, I have so many pieces of the puzzle right now. I don't know how to fully get off of the gas without things, not books, but falling out of the sky
Right.
because there's so many pieces in place and at play. And that's my Everest. I don't really know how to fully get off of the gas,
Hmm.
but just to step forward gently. I did leave the place and cool stuff happened though. I said I surrender and I mean it. And I'm like, all right, God, source, universe, I don't know what to do here. You're going to have to drive the ship. The next day, I found out that I had gotten a phone call right after it went straight to voicemail. I found out I had gotten a phone call right after
The
that
reading.
session,
Yeah.
after that reading and she had talked about, well, can you have somebody else take over Inspire Nation? I'm like, that's my baby. And I'm like, I'm open to anything though.
Hmm.
If I don't know who, an Oprah network or somebody came along and said,
Right.
we'll run the thing, you, I'm down with that.
Right.
And so I surrendered to all, and we had gotten a phone call from a radio network not wanting to take over the show, but wanting us also on their network.
Mm-hmm.
That happened right after the reading. That was great.
Mm.
We showed up the next day at the 4th of July um, fireworks, or not fireworks. There were no fireworks in this town or almost any of Colorado here um, because of last year's burning.
Yeah.
But we showed up at the parade in Aspen,
Mm-hmm.
and a person next to me is talking to somebody else saying something about TV and media. And it turns out that this lovely couple, and I really bonded with a beautiful homie of ours who owns all of these amazing TV stations and networks.
Great. Great.
And since we're working on a TV show in development, that was kind of magical. And we had another synchronicity around her. And then I've had all these synchronicities taking place as I've stepped back.
Mm.
Yesterday, I had a guest on the show who's like, well, what if we co-author some books together?
Oh, wow.
And somebody really big in the space who knows everything about it, who has the publisher, has all the connections.
Perfect.
And for 2020, I wanted to turn into a not a puppy mill, but a book mill. And
Mm.
I've got all these great interviews to put all the pieces together from different interviews, write an intro chapter to them, and turn out book after book for people to help people based on
Mm.
our 1,100 plus interviews.
Mm.
That all fell out of the sky. So that's the books falling out of the sky. As I'm surrendering more, and I admit I am challenged, and I'm in a place of creative angst, and I'm in a place of bandwidth non n'existe pas. Is that how we say it?
Mm.
No bandwidth. Apparently, still good stuff is happening. So I
Yeah.
have to try to watch my energy. I don't pretend to be doing best. It is easy in all of our lives, everybody listening, when you have all this stuff around you, metaphorically, physically, or temporally in your calendar, it is hard to stay in that balanced place.
So what are you going to chop? Is that what the chopping challenges are about?
Now, the chopping challenge is we've been working on making our 1 hour shows 15-minute segments on
Right.
YouTube, and we've hit a bottleneck that we haven't figured out our
Mm.
way through,
Hmm.
which is I thought we could take each of these shows, throw an Inspire Nation intro, and just put up these 15-minute segments. Jessica wisely said there's a reason she's the producer. You actually need to tell people what it's about for them to listen or
Hmm.
watch, and you have to make it catchy so that you grab their attention.
Hmm.
Sounds easy on the surface, but then you go, okay, first off, I do an interview and I come up with one of these sections are. Now, at the end of the interview, do I try to step back, see what the sections are, write a catchy intro, and then record it, realizing I don't know about you, but at the end of my intros, or my interviews, I'm fried.
Right.
I can switch gear and get off of the interview topic, but keeping me behind the mic and the camera at that point is really tough for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so we won't do it then, we'll do it later. Now you've stepped back from your interview. You have to remember what each segment is. You have to remember what's catchy in it. You have to come up with a hook, an interesting introduction to draw people in. Throw yourself back on the mic. Sounds on some level I'm complaining. It really isn't. When I try this, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. I actually, after talking to my son, who's like, you need to cut these into 15. And I've gone through this rodeo act before. And I started doing it. I'm like, oh my gosh, here's so much time to cut these down into 15 for exactly the reasons. Because you actually have to, first of all, there has to be more tightness and control over each of the segments. So when you're talking to
And
someone,
I'm
you're kind
doing
of
that.
looking
I'm
at the
getting there.
clock. Yeah. And then after that, you have to figure out what was the theme of that, the three themes that you have, so you can actually chunk it out into four segments. And then, like you said, you have to, it's probably another hour or two of processing after the show to create those four segments. Not to mention all the marketing that has to be done after that, like creating the blog post and all this stuff. So it's like, I started doing one and then two, and then I thought, nope, I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore because
And
it
that's
takes
what
a lot of time.
I see that across the board with I don't know if they're exactly similar, but I'll put in quotes similar channels.
Hmm.
But I don't feel Jessica's concerned it's flowing uphill. It's water trying to flow uphill. I don't believe that's the case. I believe there's a simple solution to everything, but I don't know what it is. And it is maddening. And maddening is creative angst. It's saying,
Mm-hmm.
I have energy to do something, and I don't know where to put that energy or how to do it.
Well, it sounds like you don't have to. I mean, what I think the medium was saying is that you don't have to. You have to step aside and let the world do you. So, like, don't, for right now, don't work on this creative challenge. You have other creative challenges that want and are taking form,
Yeah.
right? Like the book thing, the TV thing. All these things are kind of taking form. But if you're trying to, work on, your perhaps your old medium form, which is the YouTubes and breaking it down and whatever, you're not going to be able, it's like baggage that you're trying to like, pretty up. I don't know. That's at least where I went. I thought, okay, what's the benefit? I don't know if it's going to benefit listeners that much because when I have done the split the four, I did that with Ram Dass, not Ram Dass, Krishna Das. I did, and I split it into four, and still the one that has 50 minutes has more views than each of the individual four. That
I
happens.
believe it takes working. It's a, so here's my belief system on this.
Yeah.
Two pieces. First off, it takes time to get the right tagging and stuff on YouTube for more people to find it. But if you look at, well, people who look at our show, for instance, the average viewership on our hour-long shows on YouTube is 20 minutes.
That's true for mine too. On average, like
So
15, 20 minutes that they're watching anyways.
it suggests if we make 15 or 20-minute ones, we may get longer listenership. If you have longer listenership, so the algorithm, at least what people on the street say, because
Yeah.
people
Yeah,
on the
for
streets are
you
talking
mean
about
the
YouTube all the
YouTube,
time.
yeah, the YouTube algorithm.
The algorithm suggests more people will be suggested to it. And so
Oh.
I want to give it a fair try, a go, an experiment, and say, does this work? Does this not? Now, what I'm hitting this wall, you're right. It may be that I stop or hold off or pivot, and I don't want to bang my head against the wall. On the other hand, I'm very curious what would happen if we can do it. I just get to find an easier way. And that may mean stepping back again and going, oh, I thought I had it done because this morning I was going to just take some time because I had an interview canceled and I was just going to whip out some intros. And so I wrote out the scripts for him and Jessica looks at it and says, not going to work. Now, is that too much of a perfectionist tendency or is that her keen publisher sense or that saying,
I view this as all a chopping challenge. And when I
it
read
is
that,
a
I thought the
challenge?
chopping challenge was what to chop off your plate. And in my mind, the chopping challenge is the
Is
chopping
what gets
challenge.
chopped.
It is what gets chopped. Because, okay, here's another way of looking at all of this is saying, I give this to God. I give this to Spirit. If this is the thing that is of my highest and best interest to do, then I give this to you. The whole, what's the gal who talks about the
Kosher
Tosha
sister.
Silver? I give this to you. Please help me and the right divine timing come with an eminent solution for this because I can't spend any more bandwidth on this because I have limited bandwidth. I send this to you, God, and just let it go. Because listen, I mean, your show is already doing phenomenally well. It could do better. It will free up your time so that you can actually do instead of 7 shows during a week, you can do 1 or 2 and have it chopped into little segments. So I get it, but maybe you're not even supposed to do. Maybe you're supposed to do something else. So like,
I'm
I
with you.
literally got to the point where I sent you an email because I was meditating and what I got in the message was you have to, this year is surrendering everything, including my radio show. I'm like, well, maybe I need to just surrender this. I'm literally, come September, going to walk on Camino de Santiago. I know I want to do coaching. I don't want to let that go. But aside from that, and I like doing the radio show, there are many aspects that I like and some aspects that I don't. But I'm willing to walk away from all of it, except from coaching, because I just truly do love that and it's in
I'm
my
with you.
heart. But the rest of it, I'm like, I'm willing to walk away from all of this. And that's okay. Like, whatever happens. Because when you walk away from those things, something else will open up. You have this woman about the book. You have, this TV thing that's happening with the church and or whatever that. You have two TV things happening,
Two
right?
TV things here, two TV things happening at the minimum. So there's the local live show with Aspen Chapel that we get to work on. There is our TV pilot in development right now. That's more of a Hollywood project to get out to the whole world and kind of make spirituality hip. And we're really, really excited about this one. We keep on getting hits from Universe that that show or another show, you get to make a good news show. Don't know exactly what that even means, but we
That's a
keep on
great
getting
idea. Yeah, I like that idea.
nudges along that side. So it's coming to us left, right, and center. And you're right, the chopping up pieces is not coming to us left, right, and center, other than an expert, a YouTube expert that we met with last month who said, this is what you want to do is chop your shows at an hour. He's like, that's not what works anymore on YouTube.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's about heeding to what the universe is saying. Not right now, maybe later. And yeah, sure, that may be important. But, I was thinking about, well, maybe just do a whole bunch of 15-minute shows, do four back-to-back shows, like five half-an-hour shows or five 15-minute shows with people, right? So then there's less editing. It's like 15 minutes is your new segment length. And I think the issue with that is then I don't get as much out of it because I really
Yeah.
enjoy meeting the people and I get so much out of it and I build a connection. Like there's like a real heart to heart connection with the people that I interview. So if I do 15 minutes, it's like you're just getting started after 15 minutes. You know what I mean? Like it takes a while to kind of warm up and get them comfortable, and then like the gems happen, later on. So I don't know. I don't know. I would be sad to do it, but I'm going to be challenged because I have this opportunity to do these 18-minute podcast sections that are going to be edited down to 15 for some getting girls interested in STEM. Like this thing just kind of fell out of the sky, as most things do for me. So we'll see. We'll see how that works. So I'm going to be trying something different. And if that works, I'll call you and say, Michael, this works. Try it out. But, so maybe it will come that way. I mean, I don't know. I'm just leaving myself open to everything. I just walked with a girlfriend around the lake, and she said, honey, this is a friend of mine from New York. She said, honey, this is a year for you. It's a year for you. Do what you want. It's about you. She said, that's what I'm feeling. She's very intuitive. She's like,
Yeah.
big things are going to happen to you. I just feel it. I just feel it. And I said, okay. And I've actually been feeling the same thing because I do feel like the same kind of thing. And I got to tell you, the torture that I've been feeling for my ego is just horrendous. I mean, my ego is like, it's like, no, I mean, it's like your warriors and swords, like it's pushing forward, like you cannot let me go. And I'm like, no, it's time to let you go this year. It's like, no, I can't. It's like, my last couple meditations have just been so extraordinarily full
Yeah.
of random little thoughts, like, what am I going to have for lunch? I'm like, really? Like, this is not important. What convertible pants are you going to buy? Maybe you should buy gray instead of tan. Like just mindless drivel. And my meditations just haunting me. It's like it's going to be the epic battle. When in Lord of the Rings, where Frodo, he's like going through like the last thing. He's like bringing the ring, trying to throw it into the fire. I feel like this next year, it's starting now. Like I feel it already. It started around January. Is like this epic battle with the ego. It's
And the cool
exhausting.
thing is, the ego will be exhausted and surrender on the trail. But the first week or so out there on the road, your ego is going to have massive, massive hissy fits.
I have to tell you so I'm joining this group. I told you this, right? Did I tell you this last week? I don't remember. There's this Facebook group called the Camigas, whatever. There's women who have gone the Camino. And from what I
Yeah.
can tell about the Camino, it's just a bunch of 50-plus-year-old women walking the Camino based on this Facebook group. But what's so interesting as I'm watching is I realize that I'm actually doing the Camino now. Like
Yeah.
I'm doing the Camino now because I'm doing the training. I'm doing these heavy weightlifting. I'm getting super clean on my diet. I've been doing all the exercises that you showed me. I'm walking 10 miles a day, which means I walk twice around the lake. I wake up at 6 a.m., I walk around the lake. I work out, I walk, I walk over to my workout, which ends up being about 10 miles in a day.
Beautiful.
And so I do 10 miles a day with a 5 mile. I have five 10-mile days and two, no, sorry, 5 10-mile days and two 5 mile days. And so I've been just walking and walking. And it's been very interesting. One, my body is like, I know all my weak points. It's exactly the ones I told you about before: my ankles, the bottom of my feet, my
Yeah.
knees, even though I've been doing all these exercises. But so I'm doing the Camino already. And it's interesting because I'm watching people as they're posting on Facebook, and their responses are just so indicative of how different people do the world. So, um, what kind of exercises should I, what kinds of language programs should I pick up so I can learn a little bit of Spanish? Oh, I just picked up a couple of words and like went from there to you really need to actually take a proper class in Spanish. It's very rude if you don't learn how to speak Spanish, and a lot of people on the hike don't speak English. So like get your act together. So it's just this range or like what should I do about what should I pack? And it's like, I don't know. I threw some sports bras and like some pants that are around to like, you want to pack under 10 pounds. Every shirt should be less than an ounce. You want to weigh it. It's like the range of how much people prepare and how much they think about things and worry about things. And, what should I do about food? Don't worry about food. You'll find it. Or I bought a bunch of bars and I carry them. I mean, it's so fascinating. And I'm a planner, so I'm like thinking about what kind of care. I'm thinking about every single thing I'm carrying. So it's just like the refrigerator. Like every single decision is like
When
that.
I did my bike ride across the country, it was 5,000 miles, solo, 40 days, no support out there. Um, I had, I think, 6 weeks to prepare for it, which was far too little. I did the best I ended up taking too much. Like I said, I mailed stuff home to myself. I even had a Wayne Dyer book where I would rip out sections of the
Yeah,
book
because
as
it's
they
too
were
heavy to
done.
carry. Yeah,
It was
exactly.
too heavy to carry. So, but there was a lot of winging it. And I tend to be, that's the only time that my Virgo nature tends to come out it certainly does with running the show here and with taking big trips. I'm trying to plan everything methodically. But at a certain point, there was a ton of winging it, and it all worked itself out,
That's what
which is
people
actually
say.
this whole list I'm sharing with you today. It's exactly it. You prepare as much as you can, and then you go, all right, you
Throw
try to
it up in
give
the
up.
air. Exactly. I'm done. I
I
don't know what else to
completely give
do.
up. I was riding, I think it was the Las Vegas desert, and there was no Bluetooth at the time. So I had a phone with me that I was using to book interviews, and that had an earbud that I was wearing. I had a Walkman that was only picking up at this point Mexican radio. It would have been better had I known Spanish, um, and to be able to enjoy the music
You're right.
even more.
Yeah.
And at some point, I think I cut or I ripped half of my headset off. It was two earbuds. I'm like, I've only got 2 ears and I've got three things dangling from my helmet right now.
So you cut the headset. You took one of them
One
off.
ear will be music, one ear will be the darn phone. And then I know by the time I got halfway across the country, I had shut off the radio entirely. I was on the phone as little as possible, and I just wanted to be in the silence. There
Mm.
was such a big shift that occurred,
You had everything
and
quieted down. Yeah. Wow. That's fascinating. I'm hoping I'm going to achieve something. I had a really hopeful meditation yesterday. I told you how vast majority of my meditations in the last couple months since my son graduated, it's just been like a rolling mayhem of like people in the door, out the door, action items, refrigerators, like, passports, like just it's like a mill of these like logistical things. And yesterday, I went to my meditation and I just heard nothing. It's just like
Wow.
nothing. And it was like, what? Like I definitely hit some spiritual milestone. I think and not that there's a milestone or tracking, but it is kind of curious. I'm like, wow, I've never felt this level of peace. And the reason I hit that peace, I think, was because I've been thinking about since January about whether I go to Mumbai or not for this upcoming retreat next January, January 8th through the 27th. So I went back and forth, and each time I did my automatic writing equivalent, I would get don't go. You're not supposed to go. And I was like, oh.
Wow.
First of all, I didn't want to go because I didn't want to go to India. It's a 21-hour trip. It's like the furthest you could possibly get outside of South Africa, which I think is truly the furthest you can get. It's the furthest point from South Africa is the Northwest. Similarly, Mumbai is 21 hours to fly to. That's the shortest flight. And I thought, well, oh God, I don't want to do this. So at first I didn't want to do it because it was such a long trip. And I had a trip to India and I really didn't enjoy it. And then I created another reason where it's like, oh, I'm supposed to visit this other person and it will be conflictual because I don't want to visit that other person. But if I go to India, I should go visit. And then finally it said, you're going to get sick. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to go. And then there was a part of me that kept on saying, but you should go. Like, you're not going to see your teacher for 9 months. That's a really long time. And then I went to this retreat in Berkeley in July, this past week.
Mhm.
And I kept on thinking, oh, I think I should go to this retreat. And this thing has been bouncing around in my mind. What is it now? For 7 months. For 7 months, it's been bouncing around in my head. And then I thought, and then I ran into a couple people. It's like, it's probably your ego that just doesn't want to change. They introduced that idea, and I was like, is it? I don't know. When I tune in, it says I'm going to get physically ill and beyond food
I
poisoning.
mean, you've given me 3 or 4 solid reasons to call it good.
Yeah. So, anyways, I thought, okay. And then I thought, all right, this is a year for my spiritual transformation. And this is a year for me. And and then I tuned in again for my automatic writing, and I said, what specifically do you mean when I'm going to be ill? And it said, it's not a physical illness. It's going to be like a mental illness. You're going to have a breakdown. Like, not like a mental, like, I don't think I'm going to have a nervous breakdown or a mental breakdown, but I think it's like reboot, like something is going to happen where, what my mental constructs as they're formed right now are going to be blown away. And I thought, oh, uh, mm. I don't know if I want to go. And then I thought, well, this is the time in your life where it's about investing in your spiritual development. And so, if not now, when? You're walking the Camino, you'll be perfectly primed to do this. So, and I thought, okay, I just can't think about this anymore. So I wrote and said, okay, I'm going. And then I'm going to buy tickets and I will go. And we'll see. I may be sick. And if I'm sick, then I knew I could be sick, or I may have like a mental schism of some sort. And it's probably, if it's meant to be, then it's meant to be. So that has been my Mumbai madness, and that's where I am right now. So in January, I'm going to go to Mumbai.
Exciting.
You think it's kind of crazy? I can tell from your physiology.
Well, I maybe only once have I violated automatic writing, at least my automatic writing. When I do, it's is it caveat emptor, buyer beware.
Yeah. Well,
And
it
so
said I'm going
if
to have a breakdown, and it's like it's now my choice whether I want to change or not. That's basically the most recent one, and that's, I thought, okay, like if not now, when? Like when are you going to do this? At one point you have to face like letting go of your ego So if not now, when? Is 6 months from now going to be better? I don't know.
Well, it's the part before that automatic writing said don't go.
Yes, it said don't go, don't go. And I said, well, why did you say don't go? And it said, because you weren't ready. You had to be ready to let go of
Okay.
everything. If you're
Okay.
ready to let go of everything, like when I said, like, I'm willing to let go of the radio show,
Yeah.
that was something that was like oh, okay, she really is willing to surrender everything and walk into this thing without any expectations of where I'm going to come out, right? Like I may be like not being able to form sentences like Byron Katie after her breakdown, or who knows. So yeah, but you'll see me along the way. And we'll see what happens. So that's my Mumbai madness. Can I share one other thing that has to do with spirit
Please,
dimension?
please do.
So I just did this July retreat, and we were chanting these. It's very much into what is it called? Kirtan.
Mhm.
In the very beginning, you do this kirtan, which is like the foreplay of your spiritual practice. You do it, you get into it. You're like really get into it. You're like opening, you're singing, you're really like believing and feeling everything. And it was about surrender. The songs I was surrendering and surrendering and surrendering, and then afterwards, they played an American song, the Carly Simon. Um, I haven't got time for the pain, the pain. I haven't got time since I met you, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, I just like burst out crying, like just like calling out, just like thinking about my son leaving, which I haven't cried about him leaving like this. It was like the ugly cry, which the only
Oh,
other time I've done that in my life was when my dad died. It was like
yeah.
the kind of like cathartic, like screech in the night kind of cry. So I started doing that, and like I'm shaking. I'm actually physically shaking since so much energy is running through me as I'm experiencing this. So much so that my concussion gets re-triggered, and I have to have a cranial facial or a
Oh my God.
because like there was so much shaking. My body was just like like a volcano. So I let go of this, and then I was like, okay, do not let your emotions and this story get a hold of you. Because I've had talked to my teachers, just like when you reach that point, feel what you're going to feel, right? I'm feeling something very intense, and it's very real. At one level of my body, it's very real, and then I'm tuning in to my Sushumna, which is the central core of energy. It runs through your whole body. So I'm just focusing on that. My body is like literally shaking and like moving around, and I'm just focusing, focusing, focusing. Just don't go with the story, don't go with the emotions, don't get taken over by this, whatever this is. For about 5 or 10 minutes, I'm listening to a song, I'm just shaking and crying and shaking. And I just keep on focusing on my breath, focusing on the
Mhm.
silence within my heart, and boom, it's gone. It's just gone. And I'm just like tuned in,
Cool.
centered, and just totally at peace. And that was my spiritual milestone, that I was able to take something that in the past would have taken me off to like some long, sad jag, of like who knows how many days. But yeah, 10 minutes later, back and centered and peaceful. So that was progress. Yay!
Ah.
Yes, it was very good. So those are my
Woohoo.
crazy kind of days. How about you? So what are we missing from your stuff? Teslas. What's
So we
happening
met.
with Tesla?
Well, we met someone. We were talking at the parade because the parade had motorcycles and all these gas powered vroom vroom vrooms, and I'm like, well, why don't we have like an electric car club in the parade? And
Yay!
and and a volt, one volt did go by right before the ending, and I ended up synchronicity ran right into the gentleman who was driving the volt in the parade, and he's
What do you
running
mean
an
you ran
amazing.
into him?
Well, he was getting out of his car. I was
Oh,
coming back with a piece of pizza for
oh,
Jessica, and I had to pass by his car to get the pizza to Jessica as he was pulled off on the side. So I literally pretty much ran into him. And he runs an amazing eco conference coming up where they've had in Carter and Clinton, and this year they're having, for instance, the founder of Greenpeace and all these amazing people come in to talk about alternative energy and things that we can do for the planet now that's just not out in mainstream. And again, he's saying we need a good news show, and invited me to attend the event and meet with the speakers.
Wow, great.
And I am all about raising people's vibration, shifting consciousness, elevating humanity to a new level. To do that, we need to get on the earth bandwagon
Right.
fast.
Yeah.
And so it was just another really cool synchronicity where I had nothing to do with that piece. It wasn't about
You
shopping.
literally ran into the guy.
Ran into the guy, just like I ran into the
I
people who
love
who
it.
run all of these beautiful TV shows, or these beautiful
Yeah.
people who run the TV shows.
Wow.
So, um,
It's
so
literally a
that
parade of people. Like this
well,
is
this
like
was
universal parade.
yes, universal parade of people coming our way.
Yeah.
Conversely, speaking about running into people, I'll talk about running off the rails, which is running is improving for this year, doing much, much better. And this is growing pains. As I'm getting better, I am occasionally pushing it, as you did, a little too far and having to back off. And Wednesday we went out. Usually I don't go out Wednesday for anything long because I don't have much limiting belief, but don't tend to have much chi midweek
Right.
with all of the interviews and
Excuse
everything.
me.
Yes, your yawn was
Yeah, but
perfectly
even
on
to that.
cue there. And Jessica and I went out for a midday hike slash run on Wednesday, 7 mile adventure. And it was about 4 miles through the woods, more or less, even though part of it is the burned out forest of the mountain across the way. And then a 3 mile downhill on this Jeep access road. And I fell completely apart. I'm like, oh my God, I can't jog. I got to move fast. I got to get down here. My stomach is bothering me.
Oh
My feet are
no.
falling apart. And you just had to just breathe into this. And you may experience days like
Yeah, where
this.
you just choke. You're like, I'm done. But I still
I'm
have to
so
get
done.
home.
And I still have to get home.
There's this
And I'm
thing
like,
called an Uber. Try that
oh,
next time.
well, no, it's a closed Jeep dirt access road
Oh.
where only park ranger service vehicles allowed on it. There is unless until the day Uber has their helicopter service
Right.
going,
Wow.
you got to get down this thing,
Oh
and
man.
it's just part of this process of change, of evolving, of growth, of sometimes you're going to find yourself in the water up to your neck. Sometimes you're going to find yourself underwater.
Right. And it's kind of knowing the minus 80 plus 80, right? Like you were probably like minus 80, no pluses, right? Like plus 10, and you just hit a wall. And it's like, okay, note to self. Like I hit a wall. Like when I was like crying, like I'm like, I can't talk to you. It's just like you read it and figure out what refrigerator features you want. Goodbye.
At this point, I would have taken a refrigerator on rails and slid down the thing. But even that, you just relax into it. Maybe this is the theme, and that was the theme that the medium said out of the big picture theme out of our time together was less is more. And either the less is more is less. Don't go that far in the weekday, silly. Or when you're out there, if this happens, don't push. Just be with it. Just laugh into it, cry into it, but try not to stuff your way or push your way through
We're like,
it.
I'm gonna get up and like keep on walking, it's like, or running. It's like, nope, just sit here for a little bit and chill.
And I took off yesterday entirely from working out. Last night we had electricity go out on us at the end of our coaching certification class. So I couldn't do anything for a few hours. Maybe that was a sign of less is more. What it really meant is working till midnight on my uploads because I had to wait for the electricity to come back
Oh
on.
no.
But I didn't do the gym accordingly today. And I'm just trying to relax into it, saying, I know you don't enjoy 2 days off, but
It's
it maybe
making
is
me
the
yawn
less is
again.
more. All right, we got to call it quits here while we got some energy left.
I'm glad that you got a day off though. Like life happens, right? So now you have a break. Plus 80, it's a way for you to get your energy back. So, sorry, I don't know what's going on. All of a sudden I just got really tired. What happened?
Very. Got to be careful because people are driving down the road. You're not getting cute. Feel your hands on the wheel, feel your butt on the seat, grab the steering wheel and say,
Exactly. Woo,
am I present?
woo, woo,
Yes, I
woohoo,
am
woohoo.
present.
Okay, got it. I'm back up. I'm back up. We didn't
All
talk
right.
about your
Any last?
diets, but
No,
we'll
no,
talk
no.
about the next thing.
Diet was interesting. We had a heart expert on a few days ago, and I have a very squeaky clean diet, but there is something that's a little funny. The only body fat that I carry, I'm pretty darn lean and wiry at this point, is right around the waist, and he calls it visceral fat and says it's bad. And we talked about why it might take place, and the only clues are definitely when I have abundance of wheat things, my belly swells a little bit, and it could also be that I do have a lot of things that turn into sugar in the body too quickly,
Mm,
perhaps.
mm,
And so and he says this is a sign of potential heart disease, which makes me go, ooh,
mm,
don't want that.
mm.
And so I'm trying to make shifts. Let's get off of wheat temporarily, see that what that does to the gut, and get off of the simple sugar. I'll put that in quotes. I don't eat real sugar. Get
Right.
off of that
Fruit.
briefly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I have the bandwidth to keep going with it because, like you, I need a plan. I don't
Right.
have a plan, and I don't know what in the flipping world to eat. And so lunch for me was I don't do well this year with raw foods. I used a salad shooter and diced up these carrots or shredded these carrots, put them in with kale, and had that with hummus and one corn tortilla for lunch. And I eat like an ox. I eat that proverbial elephant a day. That's my
Mm-hmm.
metabolism.
Mm-hmm.
And I know limiting belief maybe, I do better when I eat a lot.
Yeah, you're probably a
And
carb guy. Like I'm a low carb, high protein gal. I feel better if I eat lots of protein, not a lot of carbs. You must be high carb guy, not maybe a huge amount of protein.
yeah, no, not a huge amount of protein. I'm trying to replace the carbs with fat now. And as you've seen on the show, historically, I have a hard time not turning into a swizzle stick or a
Yeah.
string bean.
Yeah.
And I am challenged right now.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I don't, that may be one thing too many, but that happens whenever you have a great guest on and help,
Yeah.
you want to incorporate things. But I guess maybe this is the whole self-help dilemma. And
Chopping challenges. Back to
everybody
chop it
has this
out.
dilemma when you listen to the show is you can't take on everything at once. You
Yeah.
just can't. That's your chopping challenge, and you have to take one piece at a time. And
Yeah,
that may
because you
be
have
my
to,
lesson for
yeah,
me today.
think about it this way. If you add that on and the plan and taking on another new thing, the stress involved with that is going to be perhaps greater than, and the stress and heart effects of doing that will be maybe negate all that healthy eating. So just do it some other time, you know? Like if you're
Give
having
me
health
my whole
issues,
wheat tortillas.
exactly. If you're having health issues, by all means, you all once went to the doctor and they're like, "Hey, your cholesterol's gone crazy. We have weird heart palpitations." Like, okay, then it's like I need to get on this. But right now, you don't need to get on this. Just
I'm healthier than an ox
yeah,
right now.
use your energy to just figure out what to chop. You know, that's what I'm getting from talking to you, for whatever
So
it's worth.
I guess that no, no, those are good last words for everybody. I think is chop more, do less.
Yes, chop more, do less. I like that.
So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler and
CJ Lou no longer yawning. Woohoo!
woohoo, saying be well, have fun, chop where you can. I'm going to work on this along with you guys. Less is more. And if you do have an Everest in front of you, laugh, cry, but just try your best to take one step, not 10 steps, one step towards that 10 miles a day at a time. And above and beyond all else, shine bright.
Woo!
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show and would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.